Hi, in this video I will be installing some Centrify eval test agents on the Unix machines. We're doing it a couple different ways and going through all the different options. This video is assuming you already watched the other video. You've already set up the back-end part, you set up your zones, and you have your consoles and all your policies set up. So please refer to the other video for setting up the back-end. So the couple steps you want to do for the Unix agent, we want to first, again, set up and verify the back-end, verify test users and the policies in the zones, and I'll go over that as well. We want to have to download the Centrify agent for your OS. So the actual operating system that you need, you can download that individual package, or there's a nice all agent zip file you can get that contains them all. And then you want to prepare a Unix machine. In DNS, normally we'll be modifying etcresolve.conf to point to Active Directory's DNS. There could be ways if you're using a Unix DNS and it's playing well with Active Directory's DNS and they already know about each other, then you could do it that way. Normally, though, you just point the Unix machine to Active Directory's DNS. And if you're doing a static IP, you got to add that Unix machines into AD's DNS. Also, verify the subnet is in AD's sites and services. The Centrify Unix machine acts like a Windows machine, so it does use sites and services to find its closest domain controller. So if this happens to be a subnet that's never been put into Active Directory before, then you want to add that into the sites and services inside of Active Directory. You want to verify the machine is ready to join Active Directory. I'll go over that as well. We have two different ways of doing that. There's an actual command line called AD-check. Sometimes you can use this ahead of time. Send it to your Unix administrators to do this ahead of time to know what kind of problems you might run into. It checks things like make sure ports are open, DNS, things like that. And if you have some change control issues, this might be something you want to check ahead of time before going to do your deployment. And also that same tool is available via the deployment manager, which does it remotely, and we'll go over that as well. Also on the local Unix machine, you need credentials. We need a local account to log in. That account needs to have some kind of sudo rights to become a high-level root or root-level privileges. And also, we want to be able to know the root password if you don't have the sudo rights. So it's one or the other. So the other thing is these Unix objects. We're going to create an object for this Unix machine inside of Active Directory. Now, the person doing the install can actually create it, or you can pre-create these objects. Just like for a Windows machine, you might want to have these objects pre-created ahead of time, talk to the AD guys, and they set everything up. Or the Unix guy doing the install, he can actually go through and do the creation. Once you decided how you're going to do the Active Directory objects in AD, you can get ready to install. Now we can actually do the installation. We have three different options, basically. You can use the Centrify Deployment Manager. This is a tool that uses SSH credentials to log into Unix machines and Mac machines as well. And this is what you'll use those credentials to log in, push out the package, and then also actually install the package and then do the join back into AD. If you don't want to use the Deployment Manager, you can also do it manually. Get the actual packages over to the Unix machine. We can do the package add manually, or we have some wrapper script. So the install.sh wrapper script, something you can run under the covers. It's doing a package add, and then it's running the AD join command. You can just run the install.sh script, and I'll show you how that works. And then also I'll show you the manual way, which is, say on a Red Hat or CentOS, we're just going to do an RPM command, the package add, for the packages we want, and then we'll do the manual Centrify AD join command. And then, of course, at the end, we want to verify the agent and test the user log. So let's verify everything. Here is my Centrify setup. If you saw the first video, I called this global before. It's the same thing now. I'm just using a different global. It's global too, but everything's set up the same way. I have a global zone. I have three children zone, Linux, Mac, and Windows. In my top level Unix section, I have a Unix profile for Diana Worth. I've set her up and I've given her access. We have some default policies out of the box. Some default roles that come with Centrify, the Unix login role, and I've assigned those roles in each one of these child zones. Again, the previous video covered all this, but I've done the Diana Worth is my sample user. She's been assigned all this. She can assign login rights in all these different zones. And again, to verify, this is the important part. Before you do the agents, you want to make sure all your policies are ready, all ready to go. So when you join the agent machine to AD, it'll go ahead and get all the policies. So show effective Unix user rights. What I'm doing here is I'm right-clicking on the actual zone, show effective Unix user rights, and this brings up all the test users, or all the users that's set up, and I have one test user, Diana Worth, and she can log in. So I'm all good to go. So now I want to go ahead and install my first agent. But what we want to do is, first of all, you got to download the package, which I've already done. And then we want to prepare the Unix machine. So I'm installing a couple different, I have two different machines for testing here. So I'm going to go open a putty. I have a local account called deploy. So on this machine, there's no Centrify yet. So I've already set up my DNS to point to Active Directory's DNS. I know I'm already in Sites and Services, and now I'm pretty much ready to go. I have sudo rights on this machine with the deployment account here, so I'm ready to go. And I'll show you in a second. The AD check tool would do it. We do it manually. There's a corresponding tool inside the Centrify Deployment Manager. So this right here, this is the Direct Manage Access Manager. It's where we set up all the policies. There's a separate tool called the Deployment Manager. Little link here. The icon looks like that. I have it up already. And this goes out and you scan some computers. I have a couple other computers I've set up in my environment. All right, so now I want to add my computer. And first thing I want to do is make sure I have the software. I've already downloaded it, but what I did is you go to software, download from Centrify. Either have the agent package or have the all agent zips. You probably don't want to connect to the website from here. So I've already downloaded it from the website manually, and then I go here, browse, and I find the package where I unzipped my all agents, or where I just put the actual Red Hat or Ubuntu or whatever package I needed. So I already have the software on here, and so this is I'm doing 2015.1 because I have that software. I'm all ready to go now. So I can right click on the actual computers. I'm right clicking and saying add computers. I can do a single computer. I can put the IP address, or I know the name of it because I have put it in DNS. Mine's called CentOS 7. I'm going to do, this is asking here, what is the credentials that I need? Again, Deployment Manager uses SSH credentials to log in. So I'm going to put in my credentials. I don't want to use something from another machine. This one is different. So I'm going to put in my account. Deploy is my local account. I have sudo-like privileges. I could su to root, but right now instead I'm going to do the sudo. That's what my deploy account has sudo rights. Can't type. And then what is the password for the actual sudo account? And finish. So now it's going to connect to that machine and get some basic information, retrieving it from it. uname -a, look at the etc groups, look at users, things like that. So it finished. So now I can go into here. I might refresh it if it didn't show up before, but it has. I can look under CentOS 7. I can look in history, discover a success, and I can look at some users and groups. So now that I have it on here, what I can do is analyze. Right-click and analyze. Centrify comes with a tool called AD check. It's something I'll show you when we do the package installation manually. When you unzip the package, it's actually in there. You can send this AD check tool ahead of time. Sometimes you might need a Unix administrator to run this to find out if it's ready to join Active Directory. It looks for DNS, see if it can talk to the global catalog, a whole bunch of like 15 or 20 different checks. And correspondingly, inside this tool, when I say analyze environment, that's what it's doing. If I didn't have the software, the analyze wouldn't be there because part of the software is that AD check. But since I loaded 2015.1, I have the AD check tools for all my operating system. So now I can say analyze environment. This is the name of the domain I want to run. Again, I'm basically running AD check. Can this join a domain? I need to type in the name of the domain. How many domain controllers do I want to, from that agent side, how many do I want to look for and see the health of? Can I connect to these domain controllers if I need to? I can limit this to how many I need. You can put this whatever number you want. 2 or 3 or 4 is usually fine. Click OK. And the analyze take a minute or so. Again, look on the left side. It says it's running AD check on CentOS 7. I got the hourglass, and you can actually see that's what it's doing. It's logging on and running this AD check tool. So it's finished. Right click on here and say refresh. Go into CentOS. Look at the history. Analyze environment with success. Now I got open issues. If you have any errors in here, you're going to have to resolve the errors before you can move forward. I just have one warning, and mine is about DNS because I only have one DNS server found. But warning you, it's probably better to have more than one. I got a little virtual environment here, so it's okay for me. Again, you have to take care of all the errors before you can move forward. So if I go back to computers, I can now right-click on this and say manage software. That would be grayed out if you didn't get a clean analyze environment, if you didn't get one that returned without any errors. But now mine returned fine, so I can click on manage software, and now I can go through the wizard, pick out what I want to do. I'm going to pick Standard Edition, Centrify Suite 2015.1. I can do direct control, which is a basic agent, and then the OpenSSH. OpenSSH is optional. It is not required. Basically, we've already pre-compiled the SSH and have it ready to work with Kerberos single sign-on, which is basically letting the GSS API work. If you do not want to use the SSH, you can uncheck this. A lot of people like to use their own. We just know ours works. If you want to use your own and you want to get Kerberos single sign-on to work, you have to make sure you either recompile it, or in today's modern OpenSSH packages, normally they're already compiled for it. You just have to modify config variable, the SSH deconfig, and let the GSS API, there's a couple different variables in there that you want to comment out and put it to yes. I'm going to go ahead and use Centrify's OpenSSH. So I want to join this machine. I want to add the computers to Active Directory and join a specific zone. We do not want to do AutoZone. AutoZone is allow everyone in all of AD to log into all the computers. It's real basic for real small environments. We don't want to do that. We want to do this, well, mainly for small environments. Sorry, you could use AutoZone for bigger ones. But I want to do this here. I like to do zones. Zones give you a lot more control. I can pick specific policies for specific zones. So I'm going to say add to Active Directory and use a specific zone. This is my user account. We talked about the pre-creation options earlier, so I didn't have to pre-create an AD. The person who's doing this installation, me, I have AD rights. I'm logged in as Diana Worth. She has rights in Active Directory. I can create a computer object. So I'm going to get and use the same credentials I'm logged on now as to create that object. The zone I want to join is Linux. And then I want to pick the container. We don't care where this is. This is the container that contains the actual object, not the Centrify zone information. When you join something AD, you have to make a computer account. And I'm creating it somewhere. Some people like to put it under computers. Some people like to put it somewhere else. It's a couple levels down. We don't really care. It's going to affect things because when you do group policy, you apply Microsoft group policies at an OU level. So this will have some effect on how your environment is. But inside the Centrify OU, you don't have to put it in there. Some people like to do that. All you need under Centrify OU is really licenses and zones. A lot of these other ones are just optional. In my environment, I'm putting it under there. I'm putting my Unix servers under the Centrify OU. A lot of people for evals like to do that as well, so they can just delete everything if they want. But again, you got to follow your policies and talk to your AD guys. Where do you want your actual computer objects to be in your environment? I'm going to put it here. So I know my zone I'm going to, and I know my container. Is this a server or a workstation license? Workstation is basically desktop. This is a server. These are all the SPNs we need to work inside of Active Directory. Just take the default and hit next. And this is, if you end up locking down the root account, you might need to count some other, put some other accounts in there that can do that Centrify needs to do. We're going to just keep the default here. So it's fine. Verify everything's okay, and then hit finish. So now you can see what it's doing. Again, we're connecting to that machine. We're going to push out the package, uploading the package in there, and then once the package is, basically it's doing an RPM because it's a CentOS machine. It's going to do an RPM, and then it's going to do an AD join command. Might take a minute or so. I'll go ahead and pause. Alright, so my deployment has finished. Let me go in here and refresh and look at the history. So add software join zone success, and still the open issues is still from before. So I'm still good. So now I'm all good. If I go to, I had this window open. If I go over there now, the two packages, the Centrify direct control, the standard agent, and then the OpenSSH. A good command to look here is AD-info. Basically, some LDAP-like commands. I want to connect and find certain things. We have a lot of these commands here. One of them is AD-info. What's my current status? This is like looking at my local policies. And then AD-query. Users more like an LDAP command. All the users that are allowed to log on, and I should have that Diana Worth. This basically AD query user corresponds, and we were inside the console and we right-clicked and said show effective Unix user rights. If I see one user there, I should see one on the AD query user. If I see 5, I should see 5. Again, this is the policy as it is in AD. This is the policy as it is now. So I'm all good. Diana Worth should now be able to log in. So let me open up a new putty. Created a home directory. Upon first login, that's what our agent will do, and I'm in, and I'm all good. So that's how we install an agent using the deployment manager. So what I'll do now is I'll actually pause the video. I'm going to delete this virtual machine and start all over. I don't have enough virtual machines to do all the different types of installs. I'll go ahead and delete it so it didn't exist, and then I'm going to install the same machine using the manual process, pushing out the package out there and then doing a manual way of installing this package on this machine without using deployment manager. So that's what I'll do next. Let me pause. All right, so now I've cleaned up this machine. That's a great thing about virtual machines. I got rid of everything. So I basically restarted over, deleted my agent from Active Directory and Centrify and everything. So I'm starting over with this same machine because I want to deploy the package manually. So just take a look at everything. Again, I don't have Centrify on here. I'm in a temp directory, and I pushed over this Centrify suite package. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unzip this, or untar it. All right, and then this is the commands we were talking about before, the AD check command. This is like that analyze. So what I want to do is, it's better to run this as root. So sudo, and then I'm going to run AD check, and then you got to put in the name of the domain. Can't type. So just like before, when I run AD check, it's just saying, hey, you know what? You only got one DNS. I worry about that. And then it's also telling me, hey, you know, the OpenSSH locally doesn't support what we need, but it's going to be fine. I'm going to go ahead and deploy the OpenSSH package. So my AD check is passed fine. So now I can manually install my packages. So all I need is a standard agents to direct control and then the OpenSSH one. I don't need the LDAP or NIS or direct audit or anything else. So Centrify DC. I'm going to install the package. Take a few seconds. All right, so the package is installed. So I got the direct control package. Now I want to install the SSH. Package. All right, so this package installed just fine, and what we're going to do here is, again, verify that the package has been installed. I have 2 packages now. Now, I have not modified PAM yet. It does not modify the PAM modules or anything like that until I do the AD join, which is pretty cool, so we can link this into golden images or put it on satellite servers or anything like that. We can push out the packages, but we don't modify anything until you actually do the join command. So now I got to join it to Active Directory. So the command is AD join, and then it's -Z for zone, the name of the zone. Mine's Linux. C for container. Where do I want the computer object? And here's a nice little cheat: is I can do it. I want to put it under server, so I'm going to go to properties, go to object, and find and put this into my mouse button, and my mouse memory. So that's the container I'm going to build the object under. All right, and that's really, I need the zone and the container. My Active Directory ID, and then the name of the domain. Make sure I'm typing that. And it should prompt me for a password. Oh, so AD join needs to be run by root, so I forgot to do with a sudo. So this is my Active Directory account. It's Diana Worth. Now AD info command. Everything looked good. AD query user. Everything looked good. So same exact thing as before. So I'm logged in. Created the home directory. Again, everything's done. So this is, again, deploying this manually. Now, I did the package actual commands manually. There is an install.sh script. So let me show you that. I have another machine. I do have a CentOS 7B. And I can actually, let me install what the install.sh script looks like. Let me just show you back in here, by the way. If we go into here and refresh, we now have my CentOS machine. All right. So let me go and get my other machine ready here. All right, so I have another machine here, CentOS 7B. I could do the same thing, run AD check, all those things. I know this is ready to go. So what I have is, I have this directory. I'm under temp. So untard again. I'll show you the AD check. So again, everything passed, just a few warnings. SSH and local DNS. So what I'm going to do now is, there is a nice install.sh script. Instead of doing the RPM manually, I can run install.sh. Same thing, it's just a wrapper script that it's going to ask me some questions, and then it does the RPM and it does the AD join. So I want to do S for standard edition. I don't need to run AD check. Yes, I want to join. So I got to do the ID and password, computer name, DN, and again, if I want to cheat, or make it nice and easy here, I know the actual location of the DN. Zone is Linux. So no for server license. I am going to use a server license. Auto detect. This is again, you want to be in sites and services, so we find the closest domain controller. I do not need a reboot. So by default, this is going to install the OpenSSH package and the Centrify standard package. That's the default for this install.sh wrapper script. There's also a silent install if you want to point this and run this to a silent install instead of running it manually. But I'm running it manually here, answer some questions, and you notice what it's telling me what I'm going to do. It goes through and says, all right, we're going to install the Centrify direct control package. I don't need the NIST package. I'm doing OpenSSH. I don't need LDAP or the direct audit. And I'm joining, and then I don't need to reboot the computer and everything else. Want to continue, and boom. So now it's doing the same thing we did before. Take a minute or so. Let me pause it. All right, so finish installing the Centrify direct control package. Now it's doing the OpenSSH package. It should be done soon. It's joining Active Directory. Hopefully you get success. And bam, I did do an success here. So let me look AD info. Can't type. Everything's good. AD query user. Again, this should look just like we did on the other side. The policy inside of Active Directory should match the policy I see with AD query user. And now I should be able to log in with my Active Directory account. And bam, I'm all in. So this concludes the video. Just, again, as a recap, you have a couple different options for installing the Centrify agent. Again, you want to make sure you verify the backend, test all the users like I did. Right-click, show effective user rights. Get the package to your Windows machine if you're going to use a deployment manager. Push it out to the agent side. Preparing the Unix machine. Make sure the DNS is right. Put it in Active Directory's DNS. You're going to run AD check tool manually, or we're going to do it with deployment manager. Make sure you have your credentials already. And then again, this decision here, creation of the Unix machine account, the machine object in AD. Some people need the Active Directory people to pre-create it. Other ones, you can do it while you're doing the join, especially during eval. That might be easiest. And then the 3 different ways of installing the package is how we went over. The deployment manager does everything automatically with SSH credentials, and then manually with the install.sh wrapper script, or manually using the RPM commands and the AD join commands. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much.